homemade F1 car. For some people, the dream of owning and driving is way out of reach, but not for a guy from Essex, England named Russ Bost, who decided, what the hell, I'll build my own F1 car. And he did. Although it more looks like a kit car and definitely doesn't have the same engine or ground clearance as an F1, the car is even road legal and is licensed to drive on public roads. Under the skin, it's a bit more practical, and it even has a back seat for a passenger. But that doesn't stop people from almost getting into car accidents when they see Boss drive down the road in this thing. His home-built F1 racer has 190 brake horsepower, which is a far cry from the real thing, but it will still do 0 to 60 miles per hour in just 3.5 seconds. The looks that Boss gets from other people is a lot of fun, especially when he goes through the drive-thru at McDonald's. He even got the attention of a Porsche driver who couldn't believe his eyes. So, hi everyone, and today we'll talk about the most amazing DIY vehicles, from homemade tanks, submarines, and planes to machines with the beast under the hood. DIY Lambo. Okay, so some do-it-yourself projects are more amusing than others, and in this case of a Chinese mechanic who decided to build his own Lamborghini, his vision stands out a lot more than the car itself. Wang Jian, from a rural area in China, pieced together what appears to be some replica of the famous supercar with a bunch of parts from other cars, including an engine built from a second-hand Nissan and a Volkswagen Santana. Wang is the son of a farmer, but took his love for cars a step further by becoming a mechanic and then building his own car. Sure, it looks a little shaky, and it has no glass, no headlights, and no interior. But you got to give the man an A for effort. The entire chassis of the car is fabricated from cutting apart and re-welding the frame of the Volkswagen. Nothing here about the engine performance or if Wang even finished the car, but it's fun stuff nonetheless. VERZANI FARMS Rat Rod. Well, here's something that will make any gearhead say, wow. Either that or run for cover if it was coming towards you. There's not a whole lot of information about it other than it's the creation of Nick Verzani, who is the other of VERZANI FARMS LLC. It is, in fact, an old 30 to 40s truck that is built using parts from an old farm machine called a Terragator. While it's not much to look aside from being a total monster of a machine that looks like it came right out of a Mad Max film, Nick takes his monster creation to tractor pulls, where the thing pulls the sled around like it's nothing. Full pulls are no stranger to this machine. But here is the real kicker. The Rat Rod is actually street legal somehow, and is licensed with plates, and Nick sometimes takes the thing out for a cruise. Imagine being out for a drive and seeing this thing pull up behind you. DIY Tank. Some people build cars and trucks, race cars and rat rods, but one guy decided to go even further and build his own tank. But the crazy thing about this machine is that it was built by an angry man with a taste for revenge, a dish best served cold, with 25 tons of solid steel and concrete. After years of protests, petitions, and town meetings, a guy named Marvin John Hemier from Granby, Colorado had enough. He fell victim to a corrupt government and lost his muffler shop business because of a shady zoning change in which he was forced to give up his land. But instead of just walking away quietly, John locked himself in a secret workshop and used a Komatsu D355 bulldozer and welded thick 1/2-inch armor plates onto it, using a combination of concrete and several sheets of steel to protect the cab, engine, and vulnerable parts of the tracks. He also added several guns inside, such as a .50 caliber, a .308, and .22 caliber rifles with their own ports to aim outside the tank at anyone that dared try to stop him. Hemier then went on a rampage in the city and caused $7 million worth of damage before the engine gave out. The story doesn't have a happy ending, and Hemier took his own life rather than surrender. Thankfully, none of the townspeople were hurt. Megatron Tank Replica. If you like the Transformers, and especially Megatron, then this next topic will get you excited. A Chinese designer who goes by the name Steel Legend built himself a Megatron tank replica from the movie Revenge of the Fallen, and it looks pretty awesome. Apparently, it doesn't move, and of course it doesn't transform. But it's something you definitely want to be careful walking around, as it looks like it will cut anything to pieces with its sharp and jagged edges everywhere, and those spiky tracks would make quick work of anything that got beneath them. The Megatron tank replica weighs around 5 tons and stands 8 feet tall, and was constructed completely out of scrap metal. DIY racing plane. While it might sound crazy to build your own F1 car or even a tank, nothing would be more daring than to build your own jet fighter. However, a man named David Rose, who has more than 30 years of aviation achievements and has experience in flying and racing airplanes, David has his own team who started from scratch and came up with a new design using computer modeling and simulation methods. After mathematically modeling demonstrated that the technology would work, the team got busy cutting and welding metal, and after 1 year, the Renegade aircraft was completed. The interesting thing about this plane is that it has a Pro Stock style DRCE 550 cubic inch V8 with a cast iron block and large valve aluminum heads. The engine is capable of 7,800 RPM, which is high for a big block engine, and can produce 1.20 horsepower and 950 foot-pounds of torque. Renegade was designed to race at Reno, Nevada, and can achieve speeds of up to 500 miles per hour. It can race at those speeds for 45 minutes, but burns 105 gallons of gas an hour. Russian monster. A Russian YouTuber, Konstantin Zarucky, who runs the channel Academy G, made a hybrid truck out of 2 vehicles, a Soviet-era ZIL 130 truck and a BMW X5M. The result is a crazy experiment that is a sensation in Russia. The ZIL received the 4.4-liter BMW X5M Turbo C engine that puts out 600 horsepower, the automatic transmission, and the truck has new components and steering wheel. This modified dump truck can go 0 to 60 in 5.5 seconds. That's probably as quick as a ZIL 130 will ever get. DIY submarine. Well, we've covered the ground and we've covered the skies. But now it's time to go underwater with this next entry. One of 3 guys responsible for this were obviously looking at a giant propane tank and said this would make a great submarine. And well, that's what happened. Christened the Kraken, after the mythical sea monster, these guys built this thing and took it down 10 meters underwater and lived to tell the tale. The main structure consists of 2 recycled liquid propane, with the larger tank being the main body, and the smaller one creates the superstructure, allowing for some headroom at the main controls. The sub is battery powered, and a hydraulic system is used to drive the main propeller. It also has a heavy keel to keep it from bobbing around in the water, and it uses a fabricated steel tray that was filled with concrete, and the tray was welded between 2 I-beams at the bottom of the craft. It has a couple of big blue ballast tanks that, when flooded with water, submerged the craft. Once everything was built, they painted it gray, added some hatch windows, and to be honest, it looks really trick. Flying motorcycle. A man from China created something that looks like it would be home in some futuristic science fiction movie. Zhao Deli wanted a flying motorcycle and probably watched Back to the Future one too many times. But believe it or not, this thing actually works and flies around, and even has been flight tested 1,600 times. The flying machine has a total of 8 propellers that are attached to a central frame, and the motor is installed under the seat. It's pretty cool, but at the same time, those propellers are awfully close to the rider and have no shields. So one little wrong move and the rider could easily lose a hand, arm, or a leg. Mr. Zhao is obviously a brave and intelligent inventor. V8 hypercar. To start off, nothing on this car is simple, and you might think it's some kit car that has a basic V8 engine. But no, this car has a 5.3-liter twin-turbo LS V8 engine which produces an incredible 1,200 horsepower and 1,000 foot-pounds of neck-snapping torque. Did we mention that the car only weighs a paltry 1,800 pounds? The power-to-weight ratio on this thing is crazy. The car has been built from the ground up and utilizes a Porsche H-type gearbox, and the suspension is a AA-armed pushrod suspension. With that much power in a lightweight car, it needs a lot of downforce. How does 6,614 pounds of downforce at 100 miles per hour sound? Well, don't order yet. It has 10,000 pounds of downforce at 150 miles per hour to keep it grounded, and it has the second highest downforce ever made for a racing car. Smallest car. A British builder must have thought smart cars are too big and decided he needed something smaller. So he found a coin-operated children's ride on eBay and turned the fiberglass body into an actual car, which he can barely fit into. The tiny machine took the world's record for the smallest car and has a 150cc kart engine, and it also has lights, windshield wipers, washers, turn signals, and other stuff that it needs to be legal on the road. Only thing, don't get into an accident in this car. However, the good news is if it breaks down, you can probably carry it home. The Green Rock Dog. Here's something that is truly unique and offers a lot more than anything you would expect from some heavy equipment. It's powered by a 1.9-liter Volkswagen engine and has an adjustable wheelbase using hydraulic rams, and they can be extended so that this crazy machine can basically crawl over any obstacle it encounters. It has full hydraulic steering and outlaw LED lighting. Look out, Jeeps, there's a new dog in town. Thai DIY speedboats. In the beginning of this clip, we see a guy in a small boat that looks as though it's about to sink before he dips the propeller in the water, and the thing takes off like a rocket. And no, the author claims that the footage isn't sped up, even though it really looks kind of fake. It's not known who built this machine, but that doesn't look safe at all. Here is a monstrous creation that looks as though it has a few too many wheels, but hey, who cares, as long as the kids operating this thing are having a good time. For some reason, the homemade bike kind of looks like a motorcycle with a sidecar. A sidecar made completely of tires for whatever reason. It's kind of long too, and might have been some kind of lawnmower or something before it became a child's toy. Whatever it is, it must be a lot of fun. LAMBO. We know we had one Lamborghini in here already, but we had to put in a really nice car for the last entry. The interesting thing about this home-built Lambo is that it took its creator 17 years to build the car. But that's not the weirdest part. Ken Imhoff started to build the Lamborghini Countach by hand in the basement of his house. Obviously, he didn't think about getting it out, but the world watched as he smashed a hole in his house to get it out. With this kind of backwards thinking, you wonder how it was possible that he built the car in the first place. The entire car is custom fabricated from the ground up, including a tube frame chassis, and it has a Ford 351 Cleveland V8 with chrome velocity stacks. But it's really amazing that he built the body by hand, and the car looks exactly like the original. It was said that after all the work he put into it, that he decided to sell it, probably to pay to remodel his house after tearing a hole in it to get the car out.